Assalamu alaikum everyone. My name is Muhammad Salah and we are Group 4. And today we'll be presenting our topic, which is AI's data center construction is the main cause of habitat fragmentation in local ecosystems. In this presentation, we will explain the main causes of the problem and the effects on local ecosystem and the possible ways to reduce these impacts. As I said before, my name is Muhammad Salah, and my team members are Muhammad Sayad and then me, and then Muhammad Ibrahim Khan. We have Muhammad Al Hakimi, and the last one is Muhammad Lukman. So let's jump to the table of contents. So I'll be doing the introduction and the conclusion, and we have the cause of the problem, effect of the problem, and two possible solutions. So, in the introduction, we have that artificial intelligence is growing rapidly, but it depends on physical data centers to process and store information. Building these centers requires large areas of land, roads, and power lines, and cooling systems and water. As more centers are developed, nearby habitats can be fragmented and damaged. So in this presentation, uh, we examines these impacts and explores ways to support AI growth while protecting local ecosystem. So this is for my first part.
Assalamualaikum, I'm Muhammad Nashad. So in this part, we gonna talk about the cause of the ecosystem fragmentation of data center. So as we know, data center is a massive infrastructure. Require multiple facilities just to operate properly. This is including cooling system, network infrastructure, and of course, a server. So to occupy all of these facilities is require huge amount of land. Thus, this will directly cut through native landscape and thus causing habitat fragmentation that disrupt local ecosystem. Next, as we know, data center consume large amount of resources. This is including land, energy, and even clean water. According to our research, data center use up to 1 to 2% of total global power usage. Global power usage. Eh, bangkit lah. Of total global power usage. Eh, okay. Assalamualaikum. I'm Muhammad Ashad. So in this part, we're gonna talk about the cause of ecosystem fragmentation of data center. Data center is a massive infrastructure. It requires multiple facilities just to operate properly. These including cooling system, network infrastructure, and of course, its server. This require huge amount of land just to occupy all of these facilities. Thus, this will directly cut through native landscape and causing habitat fragmentation that disrupt local ecosystem. Next, as we know, data center consume large amount of resources, this including land, energy, and of course, clean water. So according to our research, we found that data center use up to 1 to 2% of total global power usage. This is huge compared to other sector that usually use less than 1% of total global power usage. Most energy actually was allocated just to cooling the system. This is because the server usually produce a lot of heat. So for example, Google once proposed a data center in Santiago, Chile, and it was found that it will consume up to 169 of clean water per second. This is equivalent to 14 million liters per day, almost rival the water consumption of a small city. Next, the AI technology is a very new technology is also a high pace too. So it will always keep evolving and keep getting better. So as technology keeps advancing, the hardware must also keep up just to fulfill the requirement of the new technologies. So as our research, we found out that data center replace their hardware once every 3 to 5 years. This will causing e-waste to accumulate and contaminate the local soils and also become a health risk for human and other living being if not properly managed. So that's all the cause of the ecosystem fragmentation all duly of data center.
Hi, my name is Muhammad Lukman bin Muhammad Azmi, and I will be talking about the effects of the problem. So, data centers cause serious effects, more than just habitat fragmentation. Tironi and Albanos, which is author of multiple article that I managed to found, they highlight that Google's proposed data center in Chile was planned to use 169 liters of water per second that is used for cooling. So it mentioned that 169 liters per second uh, is simply unacceptable. Which is so it would to continue is a just a huge problem in a country that is already facing severe drought in recent years. So Chile has been facing severe drought since I think back in 5 or 10 years ago, since they are affected mainly by the global warming. So many crops die and many food supplies are disturbed. So yeah, and consequently, this alarms the local communities about their water supplies. The authors also explain that data centers practice extractivism, which is they're quietly draining natural resources like water and energy while using the image of the immaterial cloud. This is similar to spreading false propaganda in order to big company, to achieve their goals while extracting the benefits from the local community. So this is what we call as extractivism. Um, so it becomes like almost similar to becoming like a parasite towards the local communities that are affected by this cause. And then local communities frequently feel left out of decisions, which leads to protests and social conflicts, and soon may increase the risk of the people to turn against their own government. This can be seen by we can see this in many other countries that feel like they need to have they need to do protests against their own government. So yeah, this shows the weakness in the government in the country's own government, where the people feel like they lost their own right, which leads to yeah protests and social conflict. So moreover, countries like Chile and other developing countries become sacrifice zones, where local people bear the environmental costs, while wealthy corporations enjoy the benefits. This shows that AI development is not as harmless as it appears, and the negative effects are not shared equally across the world. So this is similar to what I said previously. The big corporation they enjoy the benefits. So in order to the people to not disturb them, to not go against them, they spread almost similar to false propaganda. They say that AI will bring benefit, but in developing AI, the local community will face they will face a lot of negative effects. And meanwhile, the big company, they will gain money, they will gain benefits from all of it. So from the previous slide, we managed to there are multiple points that can be pointed out, but here are some of them. First of all is extreme water usage. The proposed Google data center in Chile would consume 169 liters of water per second for cooling, which is a critical issue in a country suffering from severe drought. This is what I said earlier. Since Chile already have a water supply problem, so it is pretty unacceptable for a program that will consume 169 liters of water per second. So yeah, this would furthermore disturb they will furthermore increase the problem of the drought. And then it will become a threat to local communities, where this massive water consumption directly threatens the local water supplies, alarming residents and sparking fears over resource scarcity. So we all know that water is our basic human source. We need to use it to cook, to clean, and many other to for us to survive our daily life. So without water, the local communities will feel threatened. And then extractivism disguised as cloud. The industry quietly drains natural resources such as water and energy while marketing itself as an immaterial, harmless cloud. Yes, this is as I said earlier, they spread like false propaganda, they spread like false advertisement in order to gain benefit. Uh, while extracting the benefits from the local communities. And then finally, exclusion from decision making. Local communities are often left out of planning processes, leading to protests, social conflict, and potential anger directed at the government. So when the people of the countries they feel left out, they feel like the government are no longer helping them, so they have to they only have each other. So they use that and they cause protests and will weaken the government, which will soon causes more problems inside the government itself, inside the country. I think that's all for me for the effects of the problem. Thank you very much.
Alright, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. My name's Mohammed Ibrahim Khan, and I'll be talking about the solution 1, which is brownfield site redevelopment. So we know that the problems that we identified by my classmates were data centers were consuming large amounts of land and resources and so on, and so they were basically causing deforestation and ruining these forests, right? And our first solution is brownfield site redevelopment. Now, what that essentially means is brownfield sites are essentially just old industrial areas that are just abandoned and no longer in use, right? So we're talking about like former coal plants or factories and so on, right? Places that have already been developed. Now, when companies traditionally build data centers, they look at pristine, underdeveloped land because it's just cheaper and easier to start from scratch. But this approach comes with a hidden cost. We destroy ecosystems, fragment habitats, cause fragmentation of them, deforestations, and so on, right? It's the normal destroying green life just to make money kind of story, right? And so this solution of brownfield redevelopment flips this approach on its head, and it basically says instead of destroying new land, we breathe life into old degraded areas. And so essentially these old industrial sites already have the basic infrastructure we need, which is, we don't have trees, we don't have animals and so on. We already have the infrastructure there, and all we need to do is just start building whatever we want to, right? So one of the key benefits is that over here I've mentioned that it reuses old industrial sites, right? We're using existing infrastructure, and it reduces construction commissions, and it adds renewable energy, right? Now, it's also very efficient, right? So brownfield sites comes with utility connections, access to electrical grids, water systems, and road networks already in place. So we don't have to create a new thing, create a whole new infrastructure. We don't have to create a whole new infrastructure, right? And it also reduces construction emissions or construction carbon emissions. So when you build from scratch, maybe you destroy forests and so on, you're redeveloping from scratch, and you're essentially starting from zero, and that's a significant. And instead of starting from zero, with just reusing brownfield sites, you could have a really big reduction of carbon emissions, and it will just help the whole world in general, like to reduce your carbon footprint, right? And then fourth, I mean, is essentially renewable energy, right? We can add solar panels, wind turbines, and so we're not just modernizing the facility, we're making it sustainable. So an old coal plant that used to harm the environment now basically just powers data centers with clean energy. And a really interesting fact is that because these brownfield sites were used previously, most likely nobody used to live close to them, right? And it wouldn't cause disturbance to the public, such as how, in contrary to how current data centers are, where they cause disturbance to the public and so on. This is a bit of a new problem that that's beyond the scope of this presentation. And lastly, it creates jobs, right? Create local jobs, which is pretty apparent, right? pretty understandable that you're boosting local economies by modernizing these old facilities that weren't really there, right? Now, brownfield development is pretty simple. We get the computing infrastructure we need for AI, or data centers and stuff. We create jobs, reduce emissions, and we protect forests and wildlife. And we do it while reviving areas that have already been damaged, right? It's a win across the whole board, right? And that's basically it. That's how we found our solution for the problem of the destruction of these forests and so on. Thank you very much.
Assalamualaikum. My name is Muhammad Al-Hakimin, and I'm going to present about my part, which is the possible solution number 2. So my solution is biodiversity inclusive design, and more specifically, using green corridors when we build new data centers. Let me start with the core idea. Normally, when a company builds a data center, they clear one huge block of land all at once. The problem is, that block usually sits right in the middle of a natural habitat, and it cuts the whole ecosystem into pieces. Animals that used to roam freely suddenly find themselves trapped on one side, unable to reach food, water, or even meat on the other side. So the real question is, how do we build the infrastructure we need without slicing nature apart? That's where green corridors comes in. Instead of treating the land as one big concrete island, developers can design the site with connected green spaces, natural buffer zones, and dedicated wildlife crossings built right into the layout. According to Rumble in 2023, these features basically act like bridges for nature. Think of it this way. Instead of building a wall through the forest, we're building doorways. The animals can still move through and around the area safely, even with data centers sitting right there. And this isn't just a nice to have. The biggest advantage of this approach is that it actively restores what scientists call ecological connectivity. Haddad's 2015 study made this point very clearly. When habitats are broken into isolated fragments, the species trapped inside slowly go into long-term decline. They lose genetic diversity, their numbers shrink, and eventually some of them disappear completely. So green corridors don't just soften the damage, they go straight to the root of the problem and reconnect what the construction broke apart. Now, I want to be honest with you, because no solution is perfect. Green corridors come with two real challenges. The first one is cost. Designing a proper ecological corridor is not cheap. It needs to be specialized environment assessment before construction even begins, and continuous maintenance long after the data center is up and running. The second is planning complexity. You cannot just draw a green strip on a map and call it done. It takes careful study of how the local wildlife actually moves. And here's the catch. Because most companies prefer construction that is fast and cheap, some of them may hesitate to take on the extra time and money. But here is my take. Yes, it costs more upfront. But however, if you weigh that against permanently destroying an ecosystem, the investment is well worth it. A data center might run for 20 or 30 years, but a forest that has been fragmented may never recover. So, to conclude, biodiversity inclusive design through green corridors gives us a realistic, balanced way forward in the future. It lets AI infrastructure keep growing to meet our digital needs while still protecting the wildlife and ecosystem that share the land. Because in the end, technology and nature don't have to be enemies. With the right design, they can work together. Thank you.
I will now present the final part of our presentation, which is the conclusion. As we can see in front of us, the rapid growth of AI increases the need for data centers, but this can harm ecosystems. Data centers require large areas, power connections, roads, and cooling systems. Building them near forests, wetlands, or national landscapes can divide animal habitats and disrupt migrations, limiting access to food, shelter, and mates. To reduce environmental damage, new data centers should use brownfields or former industrial sites and include green corridors. AI development should balance technological progress with environmental protection for future generations. This concludes our presentation. Thanks for your time and attention. See you.